another major boxing event, and of course, again, you won't be surprised to hear it's being staged in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia hosts the Queensberry versus Matchroom 5 versus 5 event with Dimitri Bivol headlining the event against Malik Zinad. talkSPORT are there, and we'll be keeping you right across the coverage on the night, but we'll do that right now as well, because talkSPORT fight pundit and host of DAZN's boxing coverage, Ade Oladipo, joins us live this lunchtime. Ade, good afternoon to you, mate. How do we find you?
Afternoon, Jim. You mentioned sort of the ray of sunshine coming through in London. I can tell you right now, it's boiling here. It's probably 44 degrees here, so I'm enjoying it. Would like maybe the degrees to come down a tad bit, but looking forward to Saturday.
Ade, we can see you. You're in full view here in the studio. You're live on YouTube and Facebook. So those watching as we stream live on YouTube and Facebook can see Ade sitting there basking in the sunshine. But as you say, it looks pretty damn fierce, that heat there. Before we get into 5v5, what about the news earlier? Producer Luke rustled up Alex Krasiuk, Usyk's promoter, who did indeed confirm that December the 21st, we will see Usyk going against Tyson Fury for the second time. And again, it will be in Saudi Arabia. So that news has just come through in the last hour, Ade.
Yeah, that news has just broke as well. You mentioned Alex Krasiuk has sort of mentioned it to Luke. Turki Al-Sheikh has put it on his social media pages as well. So we go again. And I'm happy we go again. Look, I thought the first fight was a close fight. I think a lot of fight fans will remember round 9 and just kind of have that in their head as the picture. But no, the actual fight was good. Tyson Fury, I thought, done really well in the first 6 rounds. And then Alexander Usyk came on. So I feel like it does deserve a rematch. I'm not always in favour of rematches. But when it was that good and it is number 1 versus number 2, let's go again. And I'm happy they're going again this year. There was a lot of talk about maybe early next year. There was also talk about October, but I think December is a good sort of middle ground for both of them to kind of rest up, heal their wounds, and go again.
Yeah, I think, to be quite honest, it even caught the likes of Warren and Krasiuk by surprise. We've been discussing back here is what the Saudis want. The Saudis actually now get. They are running the thing, Ade. Of that, there is no doubt. Yeah,
top tier boxing, they certainly are. Look, they're putting on the big shows, they're spending the big money. A lot of these shows are costing hundreds of millions. So when it is that, and I guess if you are Queensberry or Matchroom and you're not taking any financial risk on the shows, then yes, obviously the Saudis are doing what they want to do. I mean, look, let's be honest, the date isn't great for fight fans just because obviously it blocks what could be Christmas trips and holidays planned. But as you mentioned, they do what they want to do. They've picked 21st of December. And both fighters and the undercard will be putting their hands up to take that date.
Mr. Jordan, I thought you were indicating you were about to ask Ade something.
No.
Shall we move on to 5v5?
No, we're going to move on to 5v5.
Queensberry against Matchroom. This has not been seen before. This is quite interesting, Ade. For those who don't know, we have this 5v5 event, and then the headline event is Dimitri Bivol against Malik Zinad. Now, we'll get to Bivol in a second, but we've got 5 fighters representing Queensberry and Frank Warren, and 5 representing Matchroom and Eddie Hearn. Does this wet your whistle, Ade? I mean, when you see the likes of Zhilei Zhang against Deontay Wilder, you think, yep, that's good. Dubois against Ergovic. Yeah, we'll have some of that. What about the others?
Yeah, look, great fights. The others, Hamza Shiraz versus Ammo Williams, fantastic fight. Two middleweights on the cusp of a world title shot, both of them unbeaten. So that's, I think, a genuine 50-50. Nick Ball versus Raymond Ford. I keep changing my mind on that one. Raymond Ford, the current WBA featherweight champion. Nick Ball, I think, should be the WBC featherweight champion. Drew against a guy called Ray Vargas last time out. So for me, that's, again, 2 guys that are probably number 1 and number 2 in the division. And then there's Willie Hutchinson versus Craig Richards. A lot of talk about this fight. A lot of people initially picked Craig Richards to win, and comfortably. Now a lot of people are swinging the way of Willie Hutchinson. So it is 5 incredible fights. At worst, 60-40 on a couple of them. But a lot of them are 50-50. And Simon will tell you, when you get these cards, normally you get the main event and that's 50-50, and the rest, you can almost put your house on sort of the home fight, if you like. With this one, I don't think you can put your money anywhere. It's a case of put your money in your pocket and just enjoy the night, because the fights can swing either way.
Well, yeah. Jim will have no problem with that.
But these, as Ade says, these are great fights, all of them. I mean, we saw Nick Ball being absolutely robbed of a verdict against Ray Vargas, and now fighting Ray Ford, which is a great fight. Hamza Sheeraz, my little favourite, because he bashed up Bradley Skeet and knocked him down when he was on the ground. So, but he's a very talented fighter. Dubois versus Hrgovic is an eliminator for the IBF. And so these are big fights. The fascinating one for me is what version of Deontay Wilder we've got coming into the ring. Yeah. Because the last time we saw anything of Deontay Wilder, he was the person formerly known as Deontay Wilder.
Didn't throw a punch, did he?
No, he get thumped by
so
Parker,
I think what the Saudis are doing, and I don't know what Ade thinks, I think it's such an interesting format, not just the 5v5, but the idea that they're also lining up formats where you've got the US fighting British fighters, so they're almost building up a whole different range of formats. And I think this is to some extent what boxing needs to move it through the gears to the next opportunities.
Yeah, I think you'd agree with that, Ade.
Agreed. It's almost like a Ryder Cup format, isn't it?
Indeed.
Yeah, it's almost like Ryder Cup, where you kind of get involved, and the fighters are getting involved now. There was a sort of magnificent sort of vision of them on stage yesterday, and you see the fighters jeering each other up as they kind of stared each other down. So, yeah, I like the idea. Obviously, look, it's an individual sport, and ultimately you've got to go and win for your career. But I think there is something in the fact that
if you can build this
you are
team
winning for your
mentality
team as well.
If you can build this team mentality, you can monetize it even better. And ultimately, you start to get different formats and different competition, and all of a sudden you'll change the direction, which is what you do in sport. If you can create formats, you can make serious money. What's this guy Zinad about? I mean, obviously we were looking forward to Bivol versus Beterbiev, and that's fallen away because Beterbiev's got injured. Now people are suggesting we may never see this fight. I don't see anybody on Malik Zinad's record that fills me with, wow, this guy's had a really significant career. He's obviously been put in to fill in the gap. What's the story behind him?
Yeah, you're right. I mean, you look down the record and there are no names that stand out. Absolutely. But it almost doesn't mean he can't take that next jump. Obviously, him not having that big fight and not getting those big fights doesn't mean he's not ready for them. I spoke to him a couple of days ago and he said, look, I've been trying to get the big fights. And you'll know, Simon, as someone that watches boxing, sometimes these guys are either kind of hushed and pushed to the side, or they just can't get the opportunities because they don't have a big name promoter behind them. He said he took this fight as soon as he was asked. He didn't care about the money. He just wanted a chance to get onto the world stage and prove that he's there and he belongs. Look, Bivol, massive favourite, and rightly so. But even if he can push Bivol, he's then in the shop window. People will know about him.
Yeah.
He talks well. He looks the part. He's unbeaten. He's fought in the UK a few times as well. He's definitely a fighter that has gloves and will travel. And he put his name in the hat for this one straight away. And I think he's going to do well for a few rounds. But ultimately, he's in there against a pound-for-pounder and one of the best fighters on planet Earth in Dimitri Bivol. But we have seen shocks over here in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. Not many people pick Joseph Parker to beat Deontay Wilder. So you never know. But Dimitri Bivol, massive favourite in this one.
Because obviously we've got a lot of interest in the light heavyweight division, and obviously we saw Lyndon Arthur go in against Bivol in Saudi Arabia, and there were levels, and I'm interested to see if we think that the levels will be shown in this game. But obviously post the Bivol fight, we've got people like Boazzi, we've got obviously Anthony Yard, and whatever contractual disputes he's having with Frank hopefully will be resolved. I mean, Bivol we would like to be seeing next in against one of our light heavies at some point, wouldn't we?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, as soon as I found out Beterbiev was out injured, I kind of tweeted it myself. Like, okay, this is the time for Yard or Boazzi to put their hands up and step up to the table and fight a Dimitri Bivol. We've been waiting for Boazzi to have that World Championship fight. We've seen Yard do it, and he hasn't embarrassed himself. Was he ready to go? And look, I know it's short notice, but I almost feel like sometimes these opportunities come along, you got to take them. In the end, Malik Zinad has taken it. I asked Dimitri Bivol about why you stand on the card, and he just wants to be active. He's not had a busy couple of years since he fought Canelo, so he just wants to fight. And hopefully we are building up again to the Bivol versus Beterbiev fight, which is scheduled for October. But yeah, look, Malik could come in and cause some problems, but I'm just happy for him. He gets a payday. He's the first ever Libyan fighting for a world title, so he puts his country on the map. And that's what I think these events are about. Not just the superstars, but finding and unearthing talent we haven't seen before.
Yeah, I think the scoring's different as well, is it not? Tell us about that, Ade.
Yeah, so the scoring system in the 5 versus 5. So if you're team captain, so the captains for Queensbury are Hamza Sheeraz, the captain for Matchroom is Deontay Wilder. If you're a captain and you get a knockout, that's 4 points. If you win by knockout and you're non-captain, you get 2 points. And if you win by decision, you get 1 point. Now, I'm not great with maths, so you're going to have to help me here, but there could be a case of going into the last fight. A team might need a knockout. So the plan, or at least I hope what happens, is that Deontay Wilder and Matchroom are behind, and he has to go into the last fight and knock out Zhili Zhang. And I think that makes for great entertainment and great TV. So Fingers crossed that happens.
What do the different teams get? So if Frank Warren's Queensberry beats Matchroom, is there some sort of financial incentive for Queensberry or Matchroom rather than just a billing exercise of 5v5?
There isn't as yet, but I pushed Frank on this. I'm like, surely there are some bonuses that are going around. I mean, surely you give these kids a couple of extra pounds, but he said no. It's just him and Eddie. They put a wager on, and I think the winner of this has to kind of put that wager to charity. That's what I'm hearing. There's obviously little things these guys are doing. I think Frank Warren will have to go to Matchroom and serve Eddie Hearn tea or something like that. But ultimately, it's just a case of a wager between Eddie and Frank, and the winner will pay that large sum of money, or I hope it is anyway, to charity.
Who's it a bigger night for, do you think, Ade? For Warren and Hearn, or for the boxers?
For the boxers, ultimately for the boxers. Look, I mean, Eddie and Frank go back years and years. It's really Barry Hearn and Frank Warren. Obviously, Eddie has taken that baton from his dad. So that beef and that history goes back 30, 40 years, but ultimately it's the fighters. If you are a Deontay Wilder, this is last chance saloon. He's only won 1 in his last 5. He's touching 40. If you're a Zhilei Zhang, again, last chance saloon. There's a lot of young kids on the card that are pushing for world title fights. So ultimately, the pressure's on the fighters to deliver. I love the team aspect. I think it's a great idea, but it's an individual sport. Go in there, get the W, and then go and celebrate and watch your team ringside, and hopefully your team can win.
I think I saw a promotion from Zhilei Zhang in which he said, expect bang bang, and that was about it. So we'll expect bang bang, Ade. What do we expect from Wilder? I mean, have you been in and around him? Have you seen anything? What do you think? What kind of Deontay Wilder's going to show up?
Jim, I honestly don't know. I hope and want to see the Wilder of a few years ago. Menacing, scary, almost wouldn't want to give interviews, just kind of said one lines, then walked away from the camera. This Wilder almost now just seems so relaxed and content. I don't know how you get that anger back. I'm not quite sure. He wants it back, and I can kind of see the fire coming through, but I don't know if it's there. Again, I mentioned the fact he's won in his last 5. 1 win in his last 5, and that was against Elenius, and that was a 1-round blowout. I don't know if that guy's still there. I think we maybe don't look at the Fury fights and realise the damage he took in those fights, especially the last 2. And at 38, 39, what's still left of Deontay Wilder? I hope there's something, and if there is, we know as soon as that right hand lands, it's a problem. But I'm picking Zhilei Zhang in this one. I think Zhilei Zhang's the fresher of the two, although a bit older. And you look at what Zhilei Zhang's done recently, and I'm a fan of what have you done for me recently. Knocked out Joe Joyce twice. Let's not forget, had Joseph Parker down twice in that fight as well. Just ran out of gas. I think he's the fresher. I think he punches as hard, I really do, as Deontay Wilder. And I think he's the better boxer. But I just hope there's something left with Wilder, because my dream is to still see Deontay Wilder versus Anthony Joshua at Wembley Stadium. But we'll see.
Great point. And briefly, Ade, Dubois against Hrgovic. What awaits Dubois if he can find a way past Hrgovic?
Oh, yeah, look, I think Daniel Dubois has had an amazing 18 months, even with a defeat chucked in there against Alexander Usyk. You go back to the Trevor Bryan fight in America, then obviously Alexander Usyk looked really good for a few rounds, and that's no shame now against the undisputed. And then beat up a man in Jarrell Miller that was 100 pounds heavier than him, and had to come through a gut check in that fight as well. And let's not forget, he called out Hrgovic. He wanted this fight. So he's obviously seen something in Hrgovic. He's 26 years old now, Daniel Dubois, so he's now a man. And Hrgovic hasn't really impressed. I mean, look, he's got a big reputation for what he does in sparring more than in fights. So I give Daniel Dubois a really good shot at beating Hrgovic and then climbing into that top 5, top 6.
Yeah.
And I think we might see a shock on Saturday. I say this as his trainer Don Charles is right there as well in front of me. So good things about Daniel Dubois, but I really do think Daniel Dubois has got a great chance.
Ade, great stuff. Great to speak to you. If you think it's hot today, it's 42 degrees right now where you are. It's 44 tomorrow, Ade.
I don't know what I'm going to do. Honestly, it's ridiculous. I haven't got enough linen. I haven't got enough hats. So I'm struggling here. And your producer, Pat D'Angelo's put me right in the heat. Flies are flying around me. I'm struggling out here, but I'm enjoying it as well.
That's the main thing. Ade, thank you so much. Ade Oladipo with us live from Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. Simon, there's a great line from Lawrence and Chiswick. Older listeners might remember 1961 GB versus USA. GB beat USA 10-0. It was primetime TV. Billy Walker became the poster boy of British boxing.
Billy Walker, wasn't he George Walker's son from Brent Walker?
Yeah.
A couple other, wasn't he?
Yeah. So this kind of team thing might well catch on. And again, the Saudis have started something here. Or have they? We shall see.
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.